Good day, Lord and Ladies. Welcome back to Land of the Vikings. Now, where we left off last episode, we conducted a raid at various bits and pieces. Now we're learning the stealth attack, learning about villages, attack through villages, all that jazz. Now, this is the thing. This is probably going to be the last video. I never really intended for Land of the Vikings to be like a full-blown series. It was more going to be like an extended sort of demonstration of the game. I mean, I like the game a lot, but it does suffer, especially late game, in my opinion, it suffers from the fact that you spend a lot of waiting around and rebuilding. Why isn't no one working? Work, you lazy bums. Right, so everyone works. Half tempted to basically put another brewery in, but no. Let's see. Yeah, max out that. But yeah, this is the thing, which is that as much as I like this game, there is a blessing. Thank you, Freya. As much as I like this game, the waiting around for me I find quite tedious. That combined with the whole like disaster mechanic being so frequent, it doesn't really suit itself for like a full-blown series. I was really just doing a long Let's Play series, just like a long sort of first look video or sort of demonstration of the campaign to show stuff off. So what's probably going to happen after this video goes up, we'll probably end. We're going to end the series. We'll end the sort of sword series here. So there's different things that I want to show off on the channel. I want to show off like some various bits and pieces and all that kind of thing. And to be honest, it's easier to do it on the Saturdays for me than it is to do it any other time. I guess let's trade that. And I feel that we've got a good understanding of how the game works. There's some sort of later game mechanics that obviously we can't show off, such as like getting. I mean, honestly, I think my main issue is it just takes so long to get research points. Like this is going to take us 10 research points. This down here is going to take like a ton of research points. The trading's pretty much done, to be honest. There's not a lot left in the trading side of things. And everything just takes time. So I don't know. I like the game a lot. I do think they need to sort of tweak the late game content. Because they definitely need to have some way of balancing sort of like the delay that you have in the research tree. Right, so what's this? Traitor. Yeah, kill the traitor. I don't know. I mean, this is one of the issues I have with games that have I prefer having a game where you basically have people research for you, and your speed of research is dictated by you, rather than it being a sort of. Here we go. Yeah, And this is another thing I dislike about it. You just can't skip. Yeah, I know we're having like thunder and lightning, and it's all terrible and all shocking and everything, but it'd be nice if we could just like skip past it. Like just speed up the clock. Right. Thing is, I can't even pause when this is going on. Okay, so it's back to normal now. Fantastic. Okay. Everyone's got boats, so everyone's out fishing. Some of them need to be repaired soon, but that's fine. And all the buildings that are being knocked down are being repaired. Yeah, sacrifice animals. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, and they found another location. I mean, the core gameplay is fun. I think they just need to refine some of the like later systems in it, predominantly. If it was me, probably make it so that research is much more a sort of wise person thing. Maybe having like a dedicated research hut, that would be cool. Like having like a wise like an elderman hut or like a wise person's hut. No, you can't join us right now, mate. Partly because we still really haven't got our food situation under control. Why is there still homeless people? I cleared out all of the homes. I cleared up all the homes. Okay. So obviously they want another house. There we go. Okay. But yeah, I mean, this is the thing, which is that I like the game. I think it has a lot of promise. But I do think just some of the sort of repetitiveness needs to be managed better. Stuff like constantly... Yeah, okay, well, I can't physically get resources out, mate. It's... This is the thing, like, some of the hoarding of resources is a bit tedious, especially when you become overcapped. I just wish they would sort of get it better organised. But overall, I like Land of the Vikings. I think it's a good game. I think it's a good colony simulator. I do think it needs better refinement, though. In a lot of ways. I think it needs to make the research tree better. I think they need to make it so that you're just not hanging around as time passes around, because like these tree of life points just like tick up. And like I said, I do think it'd be nice for you to have more a direct impact on it. Maybe have a later tier building, like like a wise man's hut or an elderman's council or something, where you can appoint people to it and it can speed up the rate of you getting tree of life points. That would be nice, so you can breeze through the higher research quicker. It would also be nice to have... I don't know, like, I know why they didn't want to have the physical battles on the map, because it's always tedious in games like this. So they did the whole sort of out-of-body sort of disconnected sort of battle map system, which is fine. We've got nobody left there, I suspect, because people have probably died. Okay. So, if we go to population quickly, total population, total families, okay. I don't know. I do feel that it feels like you spend a lot of time just waiting around. Which I don't have a problem with, but at the same time, it would be nice to feel like you were just more productive. Let's train a couple of extra archers, because eventually our archers are going to fall out of use. Like everything in this game, your people get old and die. So you want to pick the younger generation for things. Yeah. I don't know. I like the game. I really do. I feel like this is a good sort of jump-off point. Because as I've noticed, the later on we get into the game, the worse it becomes. Well, not worse, but the more waiting around we have, which is never something fun. It requires me to do a lot more editing. So let's try and bang out some of these objectives and see where that takes us. I mean, to be honest, we've built everything we can build. We've built all the houses. Like all the houses, the only thing we haven't got is like the sort of totems for gods. We've got warehouses, storage, all the food's done. All the productivity is done. Yeah, all the military stuff. I mean, I do like it. I think it's really nice, the game. What's this? Do they have anything particularly that we want? Yeah, we'll trade you for your food. We still need more food. As always, we suffer from not being able to produce enough food. Even though we've got like fishing boats and... This is the main struggle I have with this game. The bigger your settlement gets, the more food you need to make, which is fine. I have no issue with it. But it's just not sustainable, the amount of energy. Like, I've stopped even really caring about what's going on for there, and I just sort of look at our food production and make sure that all of our fishermen are maxed out, our herders are maxed out, our farmers are maxed out, all the gatherers are maxed out, all the hunters are there, and all the millers are done. See. Now we've got enough points for the Rune of Life, which I believe is the stealth one they want us to get. Yeah. Activate that. Learn the stealth attack. Was that the thing you wanted us to do? Yeah, there we go. So that was our reward. A little bit of money. Yeah. I'm going to say 50 silver and a couple of gold bits were not really worth it. Not for the amount of life tree you put in. Yeah. So we basically learnt the ability to conduct stealth attacks. Not really worth it. I would have probably taken something like silent attacker or something like that, but that's just me. Okay. So get back to the game. Why is there people complaining they haven't got homes? I swear. Okay. Let's get people to cut the trees and everything. I don't know. I mean, I like again, viewers. I like this game. I think it's a really good game. I think it struggles in. It struggles in like the later game sections of it, which was something that I think was picked up upon by reviewers on Steam. They basically said how the base game is really fun, but the longer you play it, the more sort of repetitive it becomes, especially in the late game content. Pat, okay, what's this? The need of the heroes. Yeah, provide the materials. There we go. Okay, so that gets done. Okay. That gets built, doesn't take care of that. It's like, oh, I'm hungry. But, like, there is food stored throughout the village. Ah. Yep, okay. Get that fixed up, please. Get that fixed up, please. Okay. I don't know. I've enjoyed it. I wonder how you people find it. I do think that some like optimization of things needs to be done earlier on, like the ability to just set automated sort of replacement orders for jobs. They've locked it between the higher tier, which I find is a bit unfair, but it's I don't know. Like I like how as time passes things grow on the roofs of buildings, as you can see. Things get sort of, and some of them anyway, things get sort of aged as time passes, which is cool. I like that look. And we just need. It's always the same, which is that we always have such issues just getting food. I always find it with this game, just the ability to get food is the thing that really sort of limits how much you can get done. You end up having to have like ginormous. Let me guess, these are all filled up already. Yeah, because the people doing the work can't make it quickly enough. Okay. I don't know. I like the game a lot, but I do think, as I've reiterated, I do think I need to basically rework the late game sections of it. But I think I would take this opportunity now that we're sort of just coasting along to basically discuss some of the things I intend to do with my channel going forward. Food have been stolen. Increase village security. Okay. What do they need? New watchtower, new warriors. Really? Okay. Where can I put this? Somewhere like there. What was it? They wanted 5 new warriors. Okay. There we go. So those guys get trained up, that will get done. Yeah, build a new watchtower. Go to here, see which jobs haven't got anybody in them now, because we're obviously taking these out. Millers, fishermen, herdsmen, farmers. That will get built up. It feels to me that a lot of these smaller side objectives are there periodically just to give you Tree of Life points. I'd rather just have a research building. But yeah. For those of you who are interested, Saturday is probably going to be dedicated to doing like a Cornish. It's either going to be for Cornish first look videos, like a Cornish review video, or it will be sort of like a slow going series. Right. One that I heavily edit. Alright, let's get some, yeah. All the food, please, mate. All the food. Okay. That's growing, that's growing. Yeah. Never have enough wheat. But we need it. But no, so yeah, Saturdays will probably be either for Cornish first look videos for series, or we'll do something like a long format video, like XCOM or like Battle Brothers. I was looking at doing either like modded BattleTech, like do like a modded version of BattleTech or modded version of XCOM 2. I'm looking at also maybe coming back to doing Battle Brothers again, like a long format video for Battle Brothers once a week. There's also a new game from the developers of Battle Brothers that's in the works that I really like the look of as well. There's lots of interesting things on the horizon, and as much as I like this game, I do think it sort of had its time to shine. I've done like 6-7 episodes of it. I was never going to get to like a full end game. I don't tend to do that with colony builders, to be honest. And unfortunately, I had heard worrying things about the late game content. So it was one of these things where I was sort of a little bit uneasy about it. Okay, so they're there to sort of stop thievery. It's strange. I'm going to be honest. As someone who's studied history like I have, some of the things they decided to do in this game are a bit weird. Like the amount of watchtowers you have spaced throughout the town. Like, so, for security. Yeah, watchtowers weren't for security. Well, they were for security, but they weren't for internal security. They were always put on walls or put at places where you could watch over the outside area. Internally, you might have a standing like militia that patrolled periodically to keep security, but they would never be like a large force, especially like in the early medieval period with the Vikings or the Anglo-Saxons. You'd probably maybe have like a guard militia or like town watch, but they would be very, very small. Maybe like a handful of people at most, because the whole point is that they're there to basically deal with internal trouble. They're not there to deal with sort of big threats. They're there to basically deal with everyday issues, like, oh, that bloke's stolen my cow, or that bloke slept with my wife, or these two people have run off together, or that kind of thing. So the idea we have a sort of like a large town guard was something that you'd probably have seen in the Roman period. Early medieval period, though, unlikely. You'd probably have like a town militia. It wouldn't probably be very large. And it wouldn't need like all the watchtowers. It would probably have been stationed near city gates. Around city gates are on the walls, and your town militia would be sort of in charge of that sort of security and patrolling the streets at night. Because that was all it was really needed to do. It was there to basically stop people from... It was to stop feuds, and just to sort of keep the general populace reminded that whoever was in power had sort of a presence. But I don't know, I find some of it... It's just like one of the nitpicks I have with a lot of sort of what they count as games set in like early medieval period. They tend to do the very sort of fantasy thing and have like, oh, town guards, and like you have to have constant security, and it's like, yeah, no, that wasn't really a thing. I mean, you may have like a town watch, but they're not going to be sort of like... They might be well equipped. A lot of the time they weren't, because they were basically just better equipped than the people that had to break up brawls. But I don't know. I mean, especially in the Viking period, you didn't really even, like in the early medieval period, so which is basically after the fall of the Western Roman Empire, up until I believe it's what we count as 1066, like the 11th century is like the early medieval period. Or at least the 11th century AD, if I recall, is that you don't have a lot of like permanent like security presence. You'll basically have like a town militia or a village militia that sort of keeps the peace to a lesser extent, but most of the time sort of policing and internal security is sort of taken care of by the population. You get a lot of here we go. We get a lot of large sort of militia armies, conscript armies. You see it with the Anglo-Saxons. They have a very small professional army, which is predominantly built around the concept of having levies. They use a levy army, basically, which is a conscript army. All noblemen of all freemen of a certain age basically have to sort of volunteer their services for a set amount of time. Sacrifice animals for a set amount of time. And in a levy army system is that you would normally have like a core, like you would have a core professional army, like you'd basically have like the Haskals, which were like the standing professional elite soldiers of the Anglo-Saxon army. Normally like the personal retinues of various lords and nobles. Then you'd have basically the levied infantry, which were made up of the general sort of free folk, as like sort of freemen, as it were. And that's the thing. It's like you didn't have it's not depicted that you've seen a lot of films where you have these big sort of it's not what this thing you see in films. So you have like these big sort of heavily well-armed armies roaming about. A lot of the time they weren't. So like the Vikings were the exception, where you'd basically have more sort of well-armed troops, but it was really dependent on the standing of the families. Like, for example, the concept we have of everyone, like loads of the Vikings having swords, like, no, that was quite a myth. Swords were like prestigious items. So you're more likely to have an axe or a spear, or in some cases basically like a mace, to get the job done. But it's one of these issues. Like, the problem is fantasy has quite coloured how people portray things. Like the idea of like a well-organised town watch, which you see in D&D, was not something that didn't really crop up until later in the medieval period. Like early medieval, you might have it in some places in the world, but like in Western Europe, you're more likely to have a small like town militia rather than an actual organised and efficient town watch. Okay, so let's get this stuff rebuilt. Yeah, it's like, this is the issue. This is one of the issues I have with the game. You just spend it constantly rebuilding everything. And that's where most of your resources go. You just spend it constantly rebuilding resources. It's just, okay, we don't have access to this, so we need to build another one of these, you need to build another one of these. But no, I don't know, like, it's always hard when I play games set in the past like this, where it depicts a period of time that I'm familiar with because I studied history, and it's like, oh yeah, like, put up watchtowers for security. It's like, that's not how watchtowers work. It's like, oh, you need to do this, and like, you can't hunt in winter. It's like, no, you can still hunt in winter, it's just uncommon. And it's like poultry farming. Like, you're not likely to have large-scale poultry farming. You're more likely to have every farm, like, family would have their own animals, like freeholds. You wouldn't have, like, large, organised farm plots like this, not unless you were well off. Like, this kind of industrial scale production of animals was not something that you saw in the early medieval period. Now, of course, now the hero wants something. No, because we haven't got any fruits. Okay. But this, you can gloss over it because it's a game. It's things that I can ignore. It's like the sort of industrial sort of poultry farming and all this kind of farming. You wouldn't have seen it like this, not normally. I mean, it happened. We have evidence of it happening in Anglo-Saxon Britain and in other parts of Western Europe. But it wasn't like a common. It wasn't like a common thing. It depended where you were. You've got to remember that a lot of settlements had to be self-sufficient, and a lot of families had to be self-sufficient. So it wasn't unusual for... Come on, for Peter's sake. This is the thing I take real umbrage with this game, is that you just don't have... Unless you sort of throw down, like, it's like, I can't produce more wood faster than I am. I can't produce more stone blocks faster than I am. And it's the real limiting thing with all of this, is that, like, say I have an earthquake, it knocks out most of the high... It hits a load of buildings, but most of the buildings hit at the high-end ones. It's such a massive resource to basically replace them. And the builders can only go so fast because we only produce so much resource. And people die and all that kind of jazz. But no, like, I like games like this. I ignore a lot of it because obviously historically a lot of it isn't really that accurate. Also, some of the weird things that they've decided, like how you can't flatten out terrain to build buildings and all that kind of stuff. But I do like Land of the Vikings. If you're looking for sort of a medieval colony simulator, which there's not a ton of them, they come around from time to time, but they're never sort of a common occurrence, which is a bit of a shame. A lot of people think when you do like early medieval, I should say high medieval, you get more of them. High medieval colony simulators, you get a lot more of than early medieval colony simulators. But early medieval, I always liked the look of it. I've always liked the fact that in this period of time you built a lot more built out of wood, a lot more wood carving. I do like wood carving, that style of house. The more organic nature of settlements, like it's a nice change. You can see the transition in architecture and sort of buildings away from the more sort of planned grid-based networks that are put in place by the Romans, and towards more sort of free-flowing, sprawling sort of mess that you see being sort of brought about by Anglo-Saxons and then later by like the North, like by Normans. You sort of see this sort of like much more organic city growth in the early medieval period, and you see it sort of transitioning over later on, and we never really lost it. A lot of the like medieval towns and cities even today have this sort of organic sort of chaotic nature to them. It's only places that have to have been like rebuilt from the ground up due to like the Fire of London or like subsequent wars have a much more grid-based plan system as they sort of drifted back towards a more like Roman approach to city planning. But yeah, I mean, I would say this as a closing note, I like Land of the Vikings. I think it's a good game. There are some bits of it that I wish they would have improved. Just the grindy nature of the late game, I don't like. I don't like some of the issues they have where you place buildings. I think should be allowed, even if it's just like, okay, you basically put down an order to sort of terrace an area. It takes time and it takes people working it, but I think you should be able to do that so you can put houses down. I'd like more crops. Just having wheat and barley is a bit boring. And like some more animal variety wouldn't go amiss, to be honest. Have they finished building on the buildings? No, they haven't. So there's a ton of people still left homeless. But even so, I do think if you like colony simulators and you like this sort of period of history, like this early medieval period of history, this is well worth picking up and having a look at. I will say, though, it's a bit rough around the edges, and the late game does have some work that needs to be done to it. But that's just me. I've been Cornish-knight. This has been the Land of the Vikings, and I'll see you again next time for whatever we do on Saturday. Goodbye, folks.